7, 8, 9. Did you lose them all?
Yeah.
Here's one more for 10. You must have put 2 in one or maybe. Alright guys, Papa Pepper back once again at the Abundant Harvest Homestead. Today I want to talk to you about having your own children. If you're like a lot of people in the world, recently you may have been encouraged to stay home. You may got, quarantined to a degree. You may have realized that by and large you've become a homeschooler because the daycares, the public school systems may have shut down in your area and now you may have your own children. Personally, we have 6 children here. We've chosen to homeschool them anyway, and we've chose to live out in the middle of nowhere where we have a lot of property, where we can have animals, we can garden. We chose to live off of one income. My wife gave up her hopes and dreams of being a dental hygienist. She quit college, started focusing on the children, and we began to do things like avoid debt and set ourselves up where if we need money, I go to work. If we don't, I'm home. I think in January, I worked for about 5 days. Just throwing that out there. It was not the life we used to live. We chose to make a lot of changes to get to that point in our life. But this is just some encouragement for those of you who now have to deal, hold on bugger, with your own children on a 24-hour basis, okay? We've got some experience with this. I don't always say we don't have a lot of experience, but when you have 6 children, you have a lot of incentive, and there's a few things we've learned along the way. Right now, I'm planting some extra seeds in our garden because I think that's wise. Some of my other children are taking care of some baby sheep, okay? They're learning about animal husbandry, they're learning about biology, they're learning about genetics. In the education of people, and I speak of education, not just schooling, but the education, there's been studies done that show when your education is somehow linked with the rest of your life, you do better. If you're measuring a board to cut it, and then you're screwing it together and you're making a birdhouse, these math skills, these measuring skills, these other skills are far more meaningful to you than if you measure a random line on a sheet of paper and then another random line on a sheet of paper and then another random line. Yeah, you did what you were supposed to do, but it's disconnected from reality. It's trying to reproduce life skills in a sterile environment, and that does not actually work all that well. Another one of my children right now, my other son, is in the woods looking for wild morel mushrooms. He's been finding quite a few. He's been learning about, the ecosystem. He's been learning about the natural native food supply and how to identify things like wild edibles, right?
Yeah. Mango from the lake.
Yeah. And this guy here, he's not even 3 yet, but he's going to be helping me in the garden. And I'm just going to show you a couple things that can help. And basically, your children are going to be influenced by the ones they spend the most time with. Depending on how you want your children to turn out to be, you may want to guard who they spend the most time with. My children are not very peer dependent. They're not very plugged in to the digital internet system. They don't have a lot of screen time. They have a lot of wild time, a lot of natural time, a lot of native time, and they spend a lot of time with us. That's great incentive for me to be the type of role model and individual that my children should emulate. A lot of times, like the sins of the parents are reproduced in the children. If dad gets drunk all the time and swears up a storm, a lot of times that's how the children turn out. I've seen it a lot in my own life with the people I grew up with, and now they're showing that for their children. I chose to break that cycle. I gave up the potty mouth and I gave up the bottle to live a different life. But we're here in the garden right now. We're planting some peas, and I'm going to show you a couple things with this guy. Come on, bugger. And one thing, too, you're going to find out with children is they want to be involved. They want to help. My children spend a lot of time. Oh, he's counting. They spend a lot of time, desiring. Bugger, come here, buddy. He's showing the work he's already done. They spend a lot of time wanting to help out, and I'll tell you what, initially, to garden with the 2-year-old, look at me, Bugger. To garden with the 2-year-old has a lot of investment of time and effort, but guess what? If I invest that now, by the time he's 4, he can do this by himself. And that'll pay off in my life in the end. So I'll show you what we're doing, and then we'll go. So here's the place we're gonna plant some peas. What I'm gonna do is make 10 holes. Counting to 10 is a pretty good skill. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now your job is to take 10 of these. Let's see. There is 10 of these. And you start, let me see. Oh, yeah, get it, good boy. And you start down here and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Start there and go all the way down. 1, 2, 3. Oops, that was 3. Put one in there. So now that'll be 4 and 5. Get this one. We had 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
7.
Did you lose them all?
Yeah.
Here's one more for 10. You must have put 2 in one, or maybe I didn't give you enough. Right here is 10. So even though he didn't do them in order, he still got to count to 10. He still got some practice. It'll be easy for him next time. And peek down, make sure everyone's got one in the hole. You look down in there and make sure there's one in the hole. If there's one in the hole, you can cover it. Okay, then cover it up. Peek down, make sure there's one in every hole. Now guys, for those who watch our channel, obviously it means a lot to us, but they're gonna see that this guy and some of these other children are with me on a very regular basis doing a lot of different things. This boy he's learning math right now. He's learning about gardening. He's learning about the way the real world works. Unfortunately, there's some things that my children, just because of our lifestyle, have been exposed to. I once had a lady tell me that if she got lost in the woods and my 7-year-old got lost in the woods, she would starve to death and he'd come out 20 pounds heavier. There's a reason for that. There's so many wild edibles. There's so much stuff that we can spend the time and effort and put into our brains right now. I covered some of that stuff in our last video about 10 things you should have already done. That if we spend the time now, we'll have that information later. The thing is, too, with children in general, okay, a couple things. I don't believe in terrible twos. This kid will be as terrible as I let him be because I'm the parent. He's under my authority right now, and he'll be as terrible as I let him be. Also, I don't believe in teenagers. Something doesn't happen where you have this magical teenage rebellion. I've seen it not happen plenty of times, and the thing is, you have either large children or you have young adults, and you can tell based on the way they behave, which is often a reflection of how they've been taught and trained and, you know, raised up, not based on their age. It's how they behave. So one thing is with any child, okay, but especially with a lot of children, it's going to show you some things about yourself too. It's going to show you some things about how you need to work on your maturity, on your patience, on your grace, on your kindness, on allowing love to actually come through rather than frustration. A lot of people kind of restrict the number of children they have because they think it's going to cramp their finances and their freedom and these type of things. Well, it is a sacrifice to have children. You have to give something of yourself to be able to raise up another one. And when suddenly overnight you don't have the resources you once had, you don't have the daycares, or you don't have the public school system, it's unfortunately time to step up our game as parents across the world right now. But it should be a precious time for us. And even something like this, okay? A lot of the things I'm doing now in my life, I have to learn for the first time as I near 40 years of age. My children can learn before they reach 10. So by the time they get my age, they're going to be a lot better set up just for some real life than I ever was. I grew up pretty much as a large child by the time I aged. I wasn't very mature. I wasn't very wise. I didn't have a lot of life skills. And that was my own fault, my own choice. What are you doing, bugger? So hopefully this just, gives you some encouragement, guys. Mail might be shut down and stuff soon too. I don't know. But one thing is, when you can't spend time face to face and when you want to work on things, if your children know how to read and write, have them start writing some letters or something. you know? Have them still work on their penmanship, work on their spelling, work on their punctuation, work on their grammar. Have them send a letter to some friend or somebody else, and, you know, they can still work on these skills, and they can have a real life application, though, not just copying the letter A and B, you know, 40 times on a page. They can be building relationships and things like that. So there's lots of ways to get creative. You may have to learn some things about food preparation right now, or maybe some things that you once knew, or, you know, as when you were a child, you know, your parents showed you. Now you can show your children. A lot of times if my kids want dessert, they'll ask if they can make brownies, if they can make cookies. And the oldest one's 9, but they know how to do those things. And then with our supervision, they can follow a recipe, they can measure things, they can make things, they can help cook. And, you know, kids are a resource. I realized a while ago that there's a lot more I want to get done in my life than I'll ever be able to do. So rather than looking at children as something that's going to cramp your style or a burden or a curse, they're a blessing, they're a resource, they're a help. There's something beautiful that, you know, allows me to get a lot more done. This guy's going to be planting peas while I'm planting peas. I'm going to get able to be planting more peas than I would on my own, and he's going to be learning every step of the way. And then when it comes time to eat, you know, these peas, it's not just going to be a can of some stuff I plop down in front of him. He's going to remember planting them. He's going to remember harvesting them. He's going to have an appreciation and a connection to his food source, and that means a lot to us too. So again, if you guys are stuck with your kids, take it day by day. Be patient. Remember all the joy that they bring. Overlook, you know, the things. Trust me, to love you, your kids probably have to overlook a lot of your shortcomings, and you're the adult. You're the parent in the situation. If you can't have patience with a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 10-year-old or a 14-year-old, you know, why should they have patience with you? You know, don't let them follow your bad example. Grow in this situation. Do a better job and use it as encouragement for some time of self-reflection. I was thinking it'd be funny, you know, to look through some of the people who used to spend a lot of time looking really pretty and really nice on their Instagrams or things like this, and they're always posing and dressed up so nice and so much makeup, and I wonder how it's going to be about a week from now, you know, after they've been spending this time with their own children. After all of a sudden, you know, things hit the fan to a degree and they're unprepared, you know. There's probably going to be far less of that and far more of something else, but I'd rather have that something else be beautiful and be worthwhile and be a real time that can be a time to remember. You know, when the Great Depression happened about 100 years ago, there was plenty of people in this country who didn't realize there was a Great Depression going on because of the life they lived. There's a reason we tried to kind of exit Babylon, get out of the city, get back to the real world a while ago, and it was to set ourselves up for things like this. And I'll tell you what too, rather than suddenly having to stay home from 2 different jobs and suddenly get stuck with, you know, 6 our own children. And, you know, even when you look at 6 kids, some people think, wow, 6 kids, that's a lot. You know what? Plenty of people have 6 kids. The difference is we had them in wedlock with one another. There's not 3 or 4 women that I've had these 6 children with, you know. There's not, I get to see them every other weekend and, you know, a week here or there for Christmas break or something like that. I live my life with them. That's the weird part. You know, having 6 kids isn't strange, but I'm just saying that we're taking it a lot easier than we would have in other situations. But I just don't want to sit there and say, hey, this is easy for me. Too bad for all you people. I want to be there to help and encourage. So hopefully they found some worthwhile things. We're going to get back to working out here, right?
Yeah.
And if you guys got any comments, any thoughts, questions, concerns, you know, feel free to leave them. Feel free to check out that latest video, and I'll put a couple kind of as the cards on the end screen to kind of give you guys some other stuff if you enjoyed this. Pop out.
Pop out.
What you got, son?
Morel mushrooms.
Morel mushrooms, wow. Boy, you are finding so many of those right now. Careful, bugger. And how do those taste?
Really good.
And how much do they cost us?
Nothing.
Nothing. All you need to know is what they look like and when they grow, right?
Yeah.
Good job. And how are the sheep doing?
Good. Good.
Nice. Can I see that one?
I found one morel.
Good job, girl. Well, let's bring them in the house to Mama. Maybe they'll be joining us for dinner tonight.
Hopefully.